Okay, we're on TV, so you can start whenever you'd like.
Thank you, Nancy. Everybody, I'd like to call the special meeting of the Long Hill Township Committee to order at 10 a.m. Megan, would you please read the statement of presiding officer?
In compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act of New Jersey, adequate notice of this meeting was electronically sent to the Echo Sentinel, Courier News, and posted on the Township website. The agenda and public handouts can be viewed online at www.longhillnj.gov. A public comment period will be held in the orders listed on the meeting agenda. When the mayor opens up public comment portion, if you're using a computer and would like to add a public comment, please raise your hand. To raise your hand, click the participants button on the bar located on the bottom of your screen. Once the bar pops up, scroll to the right, and there will be an option to raise hand. If you're dialing in and would like to make a public comment, please press *9 when the mayor opens up public comment.
Thank you, Megan. Would everybody please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. Okay, so the purpose of this meeting is Resolution 21-253.
Take a roll call.
Oh, yeah. Don't ever correct me, Matt. Not in public.
I took it off mute because I know I'm called first.
Committeeman Dorsey?
Yes, I'm here.
Committeeman Lavender?
Here.
Committeeman Verleza?
Present.
Deputy Mayor Ray?
Present.
Mayor Pasurcia?
Present. So, Matt, can I go to item number 3 now?
With my permission, of course.
Thank you. Resolution 21-253, authorizing emergency contract for police station repairs. So, Jack, how should we proceed?
Well, I think there are 2 issues, Mayor. One is, I understand the certification of funds is for $350,000. So that needs to be inserted at page 4, up near the top, paragraph 3. The second issue is, do all these items set forth in Gold Con September 23, 2021 scope of service memo qualify for emergency repairs? As I understand it, the original estimate was $450. So at this point in time, if we're only working with $350, some of these items will have to be removed or delayed anyway until we have more funds available. So I think this should just, I don't know whether all these things qualify as emergency repairs or not. Maybe they do. So maybe we should just discuss that briefly.
Sure. Who is qualified to define? Would we allow Randy to talk to what qualifies as emergency, or should we discuss it as a committee?
Well, I think Randy is opposed to the whole concept of this qualifying as an emergency expenditure. So maybe it should be the chief or
well, Brendan, you and I have discussed it, right? I mean, the point is we have to get this building operational as quickly as possible.
Yes.
And
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I just want to add something. I am not opposed to any of this being an emergency appropriation, emergency contract. Certainly, certain things on this proposal would be an emergency contract in my point of view. A lot of 3/4 of this, in my opinion, is capital improvements to better the police department from this flooding occurring in the future.
Okay, so that last part, which to my mind, we're doing the work now, so it would certainly be an emergent purpose.
And as
I mean, do we?
Oh, I'm sorry, Mayor.
Okay.
To do some of these, to delay some of those things would be inefficient because really, you know, it's all part of the same project.
Right, and thank you, Jack. You just said it better than I would. If we're going to proceed, and I think we are going to proceed, to pick and choose some of these items, when we're not doing anything that's for aesthetic purposes, really. So I don't know, Jack. I mean, is this something we want to discuss as a township committee? And I understand what Randy just said. So,
I mean, it's up to you. I just wanted to raise the issue because I think that, you know, it is an issue that had to be considered. Like I said, everything on here may, in fact, qualify.
Mayor, if I could interject here and just, you know, perhaps set the scene, right? The flood provided us a public safety emergency, which, quite frankly, in the time I've been on the committee, is unprecedented. We have a police department which is not functioning at 100%. It's not anywhere near 100%. We have had meetings, I've been personally present with officials from FEMA who have said, not on one occasion, but on several, as they walked around that facility, that it is incumbent upon the chief of police and the town to get back to 100% as quickly as possible. We have had our congressman visit the facility and tell us that as local officials, our main priority is getting the police station and the police department back up to 100%. And so, whenever we talk about the emergency or the public safety emergency here, what we're talking about is a police department that is unable to perform all the activities that a police department can and absolutely should do. If just one example, if there's an arrest made and the officers have to leave Long Hill, the Long Hill jurisdiction, travel to another one and process that suspect, that could take either one or two officers out of Long Hill Township, leaving numbers well below minimum manning that have been established for the preservation of the safety of our residents. So this, in my mind, is, as I said, unprecedented. It's certainly in the time that I've been on the committee and at any time that I've heard of within this town. So the emergency is real. The way that we have right now to mitigate the sad situation that we find ourselves in, we have to pull out all the stops to get that to get the first floor of PD up and running again. We have to get everybody back in, and we have to make sure that this type of situation doesn't happen again, because as none of us know the future. And so to say that you can do 50% of this job, but flood mitigation, well, that can wait for maybe another couple months, 6 months, 9 months. We don't know what can happen and what the weather is going to bring us. There could be another flood. There could be another disaster that that comes our way, that makes without completing this job, we could very well find ourselves with a police department that wasn't operational. No, look, just let me finish, because I'm going to finish, and you'll be happy to know. We have 3 months here that we've given ourselves, and we have a contractor at a time whenever contractors are very scarce in the ground. We have a contractor who's well and able to complete this job within the 3-month period. We can get our police department back up and running in that time. And right now we are arguing over what could this be done? Can that be done? Is this some kind of aesthetic improvement? Whenever we have public safety at an all-time low in Long Hill Township.
All right. So
I just want to set the scene here.
Yeah,
yep.
I wasn't arguing, Brendan. I just thought there should be a brief discussion on the record.
And Jack, I totally agree, because but at the same time, as far as that, I want to set the scene for that discussion that's going to be on the record, because we should be pulling out all the stops to get this done ASAP, because the public is at risk.
And Brendan, if I could, I concur with everything you said. I think it was well said. I appreciate it. And just to set the scene a little further, I think where I am is whatever. And Randy has done a lot of work, so I think it's $350,000 he can certify, but we know the project may cost a little bit more. So my question to add to what you said is, how do we? There are ways to come up with the additional funding that are necessary, beyond which can be certified as to what is currently available. And that's the second part of this conversation. So I agree with everything you said. I want to do the full project, and just with figuring out how to come up with the funds necessary.
So could I ask a question? Because I have a question about the 350,000 figure. That is new to me. Is that all we have available, or and I didn't add up the numbers that came in the latest itemized proposal? But where did that $350,000 figure come from, and not the $450,000 estimate that we actually been working with?
Can you answer both those questions? I didn't add them up either because I don't do math. What is the total number on that proposal? Because it's not my job to add those numbers up. So then you can answer Brendan.
I'm doing that now. Let Randy.
438.
There you go.
So that it adds up to 438, and yet we're only certifying $350,000. And this is in a township that is completely free from debt, where we just sold our sewer plant. And we only have $350,000, and it sounds like we're kind of scraping around for the extra money whenever we have our residents. And I can't emphasize this enough, right? We are at risk from a public safety point of view. If anything happens in this town, right, 5 of us who are on here, we're the ones who are held responsible. And to fall back on, well, our CFO said this is an emergency, and so we're going through the bidding process. Wherever we have our town administration telling us that, well, it doesn't quite fit the nature of an emergency, when our legal counsel says it absolutely does, and common sense tells you it absolutely does. Who are we? We are the ones who are in the firing line. We are the ones who are responsible for anything that happens to our residents. We are the elected officials, and we have to make whatever money available. We have to make it available.
And I have to say, I strongly second that. Within the boundaries of the law and our authority, we need to get this police station open. And we need to get it open and running immediately. There's a multitude of reasons why this is an emergency and a public safety hazard. We're going to end up losing our contractor. The public is at risk. This is an emergency. I don't know what more of an emergency there needs to be. We have a police station operating out of trailers and another location on a second floor. We need to get this done.
Can I jump in here for a second? Because I think the public needs to understand exactly what it is we're talking about here. So if this were to go through the bidding process, Nancy, is it fair to say that we'd be looking at a finish time of maybe this time next year?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I mean, I don't think that I could say that definitively at all. I mean,
so how long would it take to prepare an RFP?
we'd have to have a formal notice to bidders with bid specifications.
Right. And so that process takes how long? 3 months?
You can do competitive negotiation under the public contracts law.
Yeah, but that's, Randy, that's not the question I'm asking. I mean, typically,
you could probably get all this done within 3 months.
Okay, so in 3 months we'd have a winning bid back, and at that point we could start. Now, what Brendan's saying is that we can have this done in 3 months.
No, that's what I'm saying too. You could have this done within 3 months. It'll take an RFP, maybe 2 weeks, get advertised for requests for proposals, then sit down and talk about competitive negotiation between the contractors that will give you a fair price to the taxpayers of the Township of Long Hill. Committeeman Ray said it perfectly, actually, that we're doing work here to prevent the flooding from the future. In my history of 32 years as a QPA and CFO, the remediation of the imminent danger to public health and safety is the intent of the law for the emergency procurement. I'm not saying that any of this doesn't need to be done. I'm saying that we should go out and get competitive quotes and bids on these on the rest of this item for the capital improvement, for the prevention of stuff that we need to do for the future. A lot of this stuff didn't exist prior to the flood. So, if we need to do all this stuff for the absolute minimum operations of the police department, I'm not sure why this wasn't done many years ago, and that it was the police department running efficiently prior to the flood. We're adding sub pumps, we're adding a second floor entrance, we're adding floodgates, and don't get me wrong, I understand every part of this, but the narrow interpretation of the emergency contracts law is to remediate to get you back where you were.
Can I insert I want to insert a comment right there.
Go ahead.
There are certain things about projects that are best done while you've got the hood open on the car, so to speak, right? And so this is probably the reason why a lot of these things weren't done in the past, because we were just remediating and kicking the can down the road, right? And to Brendan's point, we could have a flood next month. We are in hurricane season, right? And so we're exposed. If we don't have those sump pumps in, that building will leak. We'll be exposed, right? So why isn't that an emergency? That's bugging me a little bit.
Well, apparently, your attorney, who's very well respected, Mr. Pigeon, is saying that this can all be done under emergency part of the purchasing law, which is fine. Now the question comes about the $350,000 that Mr. Ray asked for. You can't just pick a number and certify the funds. They have to be available and readily ready for use. The monies that are being certified in this is from our storm recovery. Now that we're using all the money in the storm recovery. That puts certainly at risk if we have a major snowstorm prior to the end of the year, which, when we get into winter, who knows when we could have a snowstorm. What I would suggest, you do a $438,000 emergency appropriation and defer it to next year's budget. If you want to get all of this done and all of this is an emergency, that's what I would recommend.
So Randy, with a $438,000 appropriation and leave it to next year, the work can be completed according to the schedule that we've outlined. Is that right? We could very well have the PD back in place by Christmas, New Year time. We can that work can be done. I.e., we don't have to wait until next month's budgets, next year's budget season to have that work completed.
No, it would be an emergency appropriation, and I'll defer to Mr. Pigeon. on I believe that's an emergency appropriation resolution approved by 2/3 of the committee, I believe.
I think you're right.
And if I could just add one more thing, Randy, maybe to put it in perspective for you, you don't live in Long Hill. I imagine that you live in a town where you have a police department that functions 100%. Therefore, this is not an emergency for you. And for what I just heard, I'm astounded that a member of the Long Hill team, and I consider ourselves a team, we work together pushing for the very best for the town and for the residents. That's what's uppermost in our mind. And to have the word, it's gobbledygook explanation that this is not an emergency and that this wasn't certified immediately so that we could get started on this, I'm astounded. And the only way I can rationalize it to myself, your attitude towards this is that you don't understand what it's like to live in a town where your police department, the sole source of protection that you have is not 100%. You can sleep under the blanket of protection that's given to you by a police department that's functioning 100%. Residents in Long Hill, they can't. And we want to remedy that ASAP.
Not to mention.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Vic, do me a favor. Let Randy respond.
Okay, and then I'll
go to you. I need to follow up with that because Mr. Committeeman Ray, I don't know why you're attacking me. You appointed me as a QPA to follow the purchasing laws. Okay, first of all, you don't know where I live. Okay, and you don't know what the conditions I live under. You don't know if I had 5 feet of water in my basement because of this last storm or not. Okay, I can tell you for a fact that I worked in communities that are well prone to flooding of municipal buildings and flooding of police headquarters. Okay, so I'm not saying anything that this is an emergent need that we need to do. I'm just saying let's do it the proper way to get the things done that needs to be done in this building. Yeah, you're spending almost $500,000 of taxpayers' money. Do we know this is the best prices? That's all I'm saying. Okay, if the attorney is saying that all this is under an emergency, fine.
Randy, first off, I appreciate what you're saying. I think we're already there. We're just figuring out how to pay for it, and I think you just advised us. We can do it $350. And then do 83 or whatever it is out of next year's budget. We can do the entire 438 or whatever it was out of next year's budget under the emergency use. I don't want to debate the philosophical point here. I want to get it done. I want to get it done. No, Brendan, let me finish. I want to get it done, and I want to get it done in a few minutes.
Yeah, so, let me point something. Let me point
well,
something.
Vic, it's Vic's turn, Scott.
I thought it was my turn.
It is your turn.
I also want to say that there is no way, we all know, that if we went through the competitive bidding process and took part in the process, which I'm sorry, Randy, that you recommended, it's going to take us way longer than if we move forward from where we are right now.
Yes, and I agree. So
in my mind, I want to make that clear.
Look, the township attorney,
within the same time frame is absolutely, I think it would be impossible.
And that's fine. Our counsel, Jack Pigeon, has already said we can proceed as Brendan recommended and as I concurred. So that's what we're going to do. Let's just move on. Scott?
Yeah, what I wanted to point out, I believe this is time and materials, correct?
Yes.
And so this could potentially come in much less than what we're appropriating, correct?
Yes.
And if we did send this out to a bid process, this would probably be to a fixed bid, correct?
Correct.
And a fixed bid always has additional money over the top to protect the risk of the bidders, correct?
Yes, and you also get change orders.
Correct.
Public works contract.
So, just for the sake of the public, this is not money that's necessarily all going to be spent. This is a not to exceed. Time and materials means that the contractor gets paid by the hour and by the materials. They don't get a lump sum check.
Thank you, Scott.
And may I just say, I agree with Township Committeeman Verleza that at best we could probably have a bid opening in 3 months. That's if everything went right. And then we're talking at least another 3 months again if everything went right. So I do think it's an emergency.
Jack, thank you. And Scott, thank you for putting it into language that even I can understand.
Now, this is the consensus of the Township Committee. Can I just state what changes should be made to the draft resolution?
Well, let Matt, I just want to turn it over to Matt if he wants to say anything.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
No, thank you. It's not going to be a popular opinion, but you guys know we nickel and dime over if we want to give a clerk, a part-time clerk, a 20 cent raise. Now, look, I know the contractor. They do good work and they're respectable in the community. I have no problem with them. However, these numbers are big and hopefully we get FEMA money reimbursed. Hopefully we don't. And I agree. I'm looking at this proposal now. Phase 1 obviously is all an emergency. No doubt about it. I live the closest of anybody to that building and I know what it gets like down there, especially in the field where the guy bought the property, wanted to donate to the town. I know what it's like down there. And yes, all this flood mitigation needs to get fixed. However, I'm also in the opinion of, yes, there is a bunch of things that have to get done immediately to get the men and women back in that building ASAP. On the other hand, I'm just going through it and there's about $96,000, $97,000 worth of stuff that is probably more flood mitigation project than get them up and running. Again, I'm not a contractor, so I don't know, but just based on the description. And the last item on the map, not the map, on the printout says general conditions. I don't even know what that means. So I have no idea what that means. And like I said, like the flood mitigation stuff, building the dam, shutting off the valve outside, putting sump pumps on the outside doors, 100% needs to be done. However, to me, that's not an emergency matter. That's, hey, that can get done. It should all be done in the same project, but if I could parse it out, that's how I would do it. But most of the majority of the other stuff I agree needs to get done. So that's my opinion. And aside from what Jack told us, being where I work, I know for a fact other towns, surrounding towns, had to do these emergency bids because of the same thing, but they were for a couple bridges went out in New Providence. They have some other road problems in Warren, had to get done. And obviously that's public safety and welfare that needs to get done. Otherwise the roads can't be driven on and the bridges can't be used. But it's just, to me, is like I said, I trust the contractor, I trust the process, but it's just odd that the way we usually operate when we're nickel and dime and everything, they just give us a $438,000 quote. Nobody says anything about it. And that's all I'm saying, and I'm done.
Thank you, Matt.
Guy, could I ask one question? Are we doing the full amount, the 438? Because Randy said there's a pathway to do that, to get this done this year. Is that what's on the cards here?
Absolutely.
Okay,
yeah, however we get to that 438 number most efficiently, and I will defer to Randy in that regard. Does he think it's better to do the 350 certified plus the 88, I guess it would come out to, or the 438 as you described and Jack said you could do? I'm fine either way. But what we're going to come out of this meeting, and we're going to do it in moments, is that this project will be done as proposed today. And I hear what Matt's saying. I would simply add to that, we were going to do some work on this building anyway. So this gives us the opportunity to do it cost efficiently, in my opinion. So Matt, I don't disagree with you, but we were going to do a lot of this work anyway.
Well, I have one more general question. If somebody, like I said, just for educate the public, what are, not the odds, but I know the town has, but the public might not know this, what the prospects are to get reimbursed either through flood insurance and or FEMA, because I know at least flood insurance, we're going to get something back. FEMA, I don't know. I know they won't give us a number till we submit everything, but at least I don't know if somebody up here can enlighten the public on those issues.
You know, Mayor, if I can say something here, because I was present whenever FEMA came and they did their inspection, and
sure,
I think
go ahead.
Kind of answers Matt's question somewhat. You know, again, obviously we can't be 100% sure, but whenever the FEMA officials were there, they talked of a 75% reimbursement from FEMA. And they looked at everything from the inside of the building all the upstairs and downstairs, as well as the flooding impact on the buildings that are not part of the police station, but some of the ancillary buildings. And so their discussion, their body language, they were aghast at what we were at what they were seeing, at the damage that had been done, especially from the sewage infiltrate. And they said, they actually said to me, whenever they heard I was from the fire department, they said, look, what you need to do is you have to make sure, and this is something that we do anyway, make sure all of your volunteer hours are logged and recorded and submitted to FEMA, so that that 75% reimbursement figure can actually be increased, because we'll use some of that. We'll use those volunteer hours as part of the 25% contribution of the town. And so, given the past experience that we've had with FEMA and these types of emergencies, and let's face it, we've had a lot. There's a minimum of a 75% coming from FEMA. Those were senior FEMA officials.
And Brendan, thank you. And we know from past experience, unfortunately, we have substantial past experience. We also get reimbursed for DPW hours, for the use of DPW vehicles, etc. Town hall employee time. So, I mean, from a financial perspective, you don't want it to be to have a natural disaster, but we do. We don't control that part of it. But our OEM coordinators in past, Ken Folger, Shane Daly, and Linda Olmsted and her team, and now Joe Hubert, they do a phenomenal job. Everything we're entitled to under the law, we will get. So from a financial perspective, I'm very comfortable where we're coming from. Matt, I appreciate your concerns. They're valid. But the flip side, I'll go back to what Brendan said at the beginning of this meeting. We must get that police station operational and safe as quickly and cost efficiently as possible. And I am 100% confident that what we are proposing here does that.
Also, I also totally understand where Matt's coming from, but I also think that sometimes when you do these repairs, while other repairs are also getting done, it's actually more cost effective. You know what I'm trying to say? While they already while they're already doing certain projects, for them to do other projects, it's actually cheaper. Like, like while the mechanic's already taking care of the timing chain, you might as well change the oil and do other things. It turns out to be cheaper in the long run to do it that way.
You have a good mechanic there, Vic. All right. So, Jack, I don't know. For me, I just want to cut to the chase. I think we have a pretty good idea. So from a legal perspective, how do we proceed?
Well, preliminarily, I think we should discuss, I would suggest, if it's okay with Randy as the CFO, that we proceed today on the 350 and then come back at the October 6th meeting and do an emergency appropriation, just because I'd like to have a proper resolution and not do an emergency appropriation on the fly.
Okay.
Can I make a suggestion?
Sure.
Maybe only do 250. That money is the money that we're using for the dumpsters for the storm cleanup. And this would only leave $9,000 in that account. And so maybe only do 250 now, so that we at least have money left in there to pay for the dumpsters that we already hired for the.
Yeah, I mean, this is one part that confuses me. Emergencies happen in towns. They're not always going to be flood related. They could be anything. What would happen if something, God forbid, happened and we needed $100,000 to do something tomorrow? I mean, do we really have to go through this?
You have to do an emergency appropriation. Well, Randy, I'll let you speak to that.
Yeah, you would have to do an emergency appropriation, and it's basically, like I said, a resolution. I believe it needs 2/3 approval by the governing body, and then you're good to go. Now, whether you have the actual cash or not, that's a whole different story, and that would go into going and borrowing money at a rate that would be determined at the time of borrowing money. But that's not the issue here. The cash flow is not the issue to go to Committeeman Ray's concern. It's not the cash flow, it's the appropriation that's the issue.
Randy, I assume, and correct me if I'm wrong, that if we appropriated 250 or 350 today on October 6th, we could amend that and reallocate the money to an emergency appropriation, or at least part of it or most of it. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I would say that, yes, we can do that. I mean, October 6th is only a week and a half away. So we can, I doubt very highly. I don't know the expenses that have been incurred as of yet, but I don't think that we would be incurring over the $250,000 before the next meeting. So I would leave the certification at 350, and then we could revise the certification at the next meeting.
At the next meeting, because not for nothing, to Scott's point, and I, again, don't know how this works. We're not writing a check for $438,000 today. By October 6th, we're not going to have to write a check for $438,000. So I'm just assumed do the maximum we can do today. I'd prefer doing an emergency appropriation for the whole 438, so everybody can be comfortable. We're not going to change our minds. But you know, if we have to do 350 and 88, and Brendan, you're on mute. That's my favorite level for you. Mute.
No, I'm not. Or you do. You must have muted me.
I don't have that authority.
I mean, Guy, you know, just to your last point, that's exactly where I am. As a resident, I want to know that the money's been appropriated and we're ready to go, and so that there's that this is not something I need to worry about. As an elected official, I absolutely want to have it, because we were, by being voted into office, we were given the residents' confidence to look out for the best interests. And so that's why this has been too long in coming for me. The fact that we're here today, it should have been done. It should have been done before. And so I would rather not waste any time. I would rather have the full amount appropriated today. Then we don't need to fight any more fires around this. All we do is we put this. It's been done. We can be rest assured that the work will be completed, and we can move on to the next thing that we need to worry about. But
Jack,
I would rather see it.
I know, Jack, you said you might think 350 today, 88 at the October meeting.
Or we can reallocate the money, is what I'm saying.
Do you have any issue? Do you have any issue if we do the 438 right now, so we don't even have to?
Well, let me just call up the emergency appropriation statute.
Either way, Brendan, we're getting to the number.
I'd be more comfortable if I had a fully drafted resolution in front of me, because an emergency resolution is an unusual circumstance.
All right, so 350 today, 88 October 6th.
I understand what Brendan's saying, but I don't think we're prejudicing anything by doing it that way. Can we reallocate, Randy, the entire 438 to the emergency appropriation next week, even though some of the money may have been spent?
I would think that would be okay with the auditors.
Okay, so if we can do that, we can get this.
So we get to the 430. And by the way, am I using the right number? It is, Scott, you said it was 438? Yep. Right. So we're going to get to the 438 as an emergency appropriation by amending whatever we do today at the OC 6 meeting, right?
I would suggest 450. There are always contingencies. If we don't spend it all, we don't spend it all.
Get a load of Daddy Warbucks here.
Well, as I said earlier, there are always change orders, unanticipated site conditions.
Fair enough.
Rather than having to come back and do another one.
All right. So what's the motion that we're looking for here? The motion is to approve the resolution.
Yeah, you have a draft resolution, but let me tell you the changes we can make, and then I'll submit a clean copy to Megan after we finish here. At page 3 of the 4th preamble paragraph, right after the zip code, this refers to GoldCon's proposal, just but dated September 26th, I believe, September 23rd. In there. Then at page 4, in paragraph 2, just strike out annotated, because we're adopting the entire proposal. And again, if you would insert before proposal, September 23rd. And then in paragraph 3, insert 350,000. As I said, that can be adjusted and reallocated next week. I believe those are all the changes. No, I'm sorry. In number 11, Randy will have to insert the budget line item, and I don't have his email in front of me. But
Jack, those the 350 and the budget line item number were published.
I'm sorry.
The budget line item number, yes, and the 350,000 were published.
Oh, in a published copy. Okay.
Correct.
Okay. So
it's just the other ones that you referenced before that.
Okay, I was just working off my copy. So that being the case, and then obviously the date of adoption. So if that's okay with all of you, does anyone have any additional changes they would like to make to the resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Megan, would you take a vote, please?
Committeeman Dorsey?
Yes.
Committeeman Lavender?
Yes.
Committeeman Verleza?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Ray?
Yes.
Mayor Pasurcia?
Absolutely, yes.
So I will work with Randy and get together an emergency appropriation resolution for the October 6th meeting then.
Thanks, Jack. And thanks, Randy. Thanks, Nancy. Thanks, Megan, for organizing everything on short notice. Thanks to the Township Committee. I think I have to open this up to the public at this point, right?
Yes, you do.
All right. So at this point, I'd like to open it up to the public. Because this is a special meeting, is it only open on this topic or is it any topic?
Any topic.
All right. So any topic that anybody wants to speak to, have at it. Please raise your hand. I see somebody.
Pamela Ogens, I'm going to allow you to talk. If you could state your name and your address for the record, please.
Hi, it's Pam Ogens, Millington. My question is, in capital budget 2022, there were monies appropriated for repairs at the police department. I don't remember exactly how much. I think it was somewhere between $130,000 and $170,000. Can you get emergency release of those capital funds to underwrite these costs? And my second is, I'm retired now, but when I worked, of course, there was equipment that broke, et cetera, and we got release from, what we had was an emergency capital fund. Does the township have an emergency capital fund? And can that be accessed? How much is in it? And can it be accessed? So 2 questions. The 170 approximately that was appropriated and approved for 2022, can we access that on an emergency basis? And secondly, do we have such an emergency fund for situations like this? I'm also concerned that we're not just kicking the can down the road, and perhaps we should be looking a little after we get over this emergency. What is our long-term plan for a police department that's in a floodplain? But
I'm going to defer to Randy. He's the expert in this, but I'll answer your second part. We are and have been discussing both internally and in conjunction with Chief Naga as to what we might want to do going forward as a permanent solution. But I think Matt or Brendan, somebody said earlier, no matter what we do in terms of a permanent solution, we have to come up with a solution for, and not for the next 6 months. The solution we're working on today, I think, is more of a 2, 3, 4 year window to where we can come up with a more permanent solution, whether that's dealing with the flood, the flooding in terms of a mitigation type situation, or simply if we would look to move the police station to higher ground. But that's a conversation for another day. I agree with you. But in terms of the capital budget and the emergency fund, Randy, I think this is your wheelhouse, not mine.
Yeah, Mayor, the capital improvement that was already done was for specific items under those ordinances. So the quick answer is no, we can't divert that to the emergency funding of this. We do not, municipalities don't have the luxury of a emergency capital program, if you will. We can allocate money if monies are available in the capital improvement fund to do capital improvements, but that takes an ordinance, which is normally takes roughly 30 days. It takes 2 meetings plus advertising. So that would be a 30-day turnaround at best.
Thank you, Randy. Pam, does that answer your question?
Yeah, it's just, I'm going to see there'll be some overlapping, and probably in those appropriated 170,000 approximately capital things that may no longer be needed because of the emergency repairs, or may be more. So I think at some point you would want to revisit the money that's already been appropriated for 2022, but that would probably come at the end of
and I would point out, just because it's been appropriated doesn't mean it will be spent. So if that allays your concern.
Yeah, no, I'm not concerned. I'd just like to see that money go to the best possible use in light of the emergency situation.
Yep, no, I appreciate it. Thank you. As always, great input. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any other member of the public who would like to make a comment or ask a question? I don't see any. Let's just give them a few seconds here. Some of the folks may be technologically challenged like me. It may take a while, but I'm not seeing any. Megan, are you seeing any?
I am not, Mayor.
Well, seeing that, I want to thank everybody who attended the meeting. I want to thank the Township Committee, Jack, Nancy, Randy. Hopefully I'm not forgetting somebody. Megan. Yeah, I had to look to my Marsha Brady box. There you go.
Mayor, Chief Naga just raised his hand. I'm going to allow him to talk if that's okay.
Absolutely. Chief, fire away. Oh, maybe I shouldn't say that to somebody who carries a gun.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. Yeah, definitely don't say far away. Not the best choice, but I just want to take a moment and commend the committee members who have been alongside the police department, have regularly reached out. I want to commend Committeeman Ray for an appropriate representation of the climate and the thoughts and the feelings of all the firemen and women of the Long Hill Township Police Department. He's been through the frustrations and the concerns that I have for in the interest of public safety. So I do want to thank him, and I want to thank the police liaison, Vic Verleza, for his support throughout this process. And I'd be remiss if I did not include the officers that have endured all the troubles and without really any problems came into work and just kind of adapted to the changes that were literally happening. And I use this term on purpose to the fluid changes at the police department, literally. So I do want to thank all of you for helping me and helping our residents get through this time period, and look forward to continuing to work with you. Thank you.
Chief, thank you. And I think I speak for the entire Township Committee. Thank you to the officers. You've lived, some of you have lived through this previously, of course, back during, not Sandy, Irene, sorry. There's a lot of female names attached to these storms, isn't there? So you got Ida and FEMA or whatever, and Riley and Quinn. We had Riley and Quinn, but that wasn't flooding. All right, so
wait, Guy.
Yes, sir.
Even though I don't want to prolong this because I do have to go to the bathroom, but what happens now if we need other appropriations? Say, for example, there's a major ice storm like that Snowtober, or things like that. Like, where's the money come from? We need stuff for like salt or plowing or overtime. That's my only question, if we appropriated all of it. now. I don't know if they're doing half and half. That's my question.
I think we're addressing that, Randy, on October 6th, right? When we're going to take the 438, making an emergency appropriation out of the 2022 budget, and then therefore the other money becomes available. So we are taking a chance, probably for 9 days or whatever that. So I don't know if we'll get locusts and lantern flies and mosquitoes and.
All right, that was my only concern. As long as
Randy, did I represent that correctly?
Sideways this year.
Yeah, don't take my answer. I think Randy's the expert.
Yes, you did.
Okay, so we'll be okay. Just hopefully we don't get hit by a tsunami.
No, I hope not. But thank you for answering that.
And again, I think we were just saying thank you to all the officers for kind of rolling with it, so to speak. We visited the building. We know the condition it's in, and we're trying to address it as quickly as we can. That's it. So I'd look for a motion, if I could, to adjourn.
So moved.
That was Brendan and Scott.
I'll second it.
So Brendan is second. I just want to be clear on that. Scott's the primary.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Hold on.
Bye.